Hey everyone, happy September. Yikes, I can't believe we are in the final stretch of this year. Wow. I don't know about you, but there's something about back to school and that crisper air that suddenly sends me immediately back to my childhood and starting the new year, the new school year. And often that comes with a little bit of overwhelm. And so I woke up this morning feeling completely overwhelmed. I have a manuscript due, I have a trip coming up, my kids are starting school, one of them's in a new school, and yikes. Nothing really changed from last week. It's just today, September 3rd, and so now it suddenly seems overwhelming. And I decided to do a Twitter chat on it this morning, and it seems I'm not alone. So I want to talk a little bit about overwhelm. What happens? Why do we get overwhelmed? What happens in our brain, and how can we overcome it? So usually overwhelm starts by a trigger. It can be a person can trigger overwhelm, a series of events can trigger it, or deadlines can trigger it, or our own thoughts can trigger it, as was probably my case today. Being our own worst enemies. And usually what's behind that or underneath all of that is some feeling of not being good enough. Whether it's, I'm not good enough to get this done, I'm not going to be loved enough or appreciated enough, or I'm not going to be fast enough, I'm not going to get it done on time, or it's not going to just be perfect enough in the exact right amount of time. Right? Sound familiar? And it all starts to escalate. And if you were to track your overwhelm periods, you'll find that very often they go in a distinct pattern, in an order, a succession of things that happen. You'll get the trigger, then you're going to respond one way, then it's going to escalate, and this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. It's an interesting little experiment to see what you actually do, because it's a pattern. And so if you can interrupt that pattern, you can sometimes sort of cut it off and change it right there and then. So next time you're overwhelmed, take a look, or right after, check it out. And so how can you interrupt those patterns? Because when you get really overwhelmed, your brain just stops functioning. Your decision-making skills gone. Creativity, I don't know where that goes, and that ability to tap into your inner resourcefulness, what you need, what you know, what you are capable of, gone. And so we want to pull that back. We want to calm our nervous system. We want to get into a place, into our flow, into our best self, so that we can move forward, be productive, and be happier. So how do you do that? And there's a variety of ways. First of all, acknowledging that it's a feeling is one of them, and that this too shall pass, much like any other feeling. You've been through so many periods of overwhelm probably in your life, and you've overcome each and every one of them. You absolutely, positively are enough, and you have what it takes. Second of all, the enough usually leads to some disastrous thing, right? Like, they're not going to love me enough, I'm going to lose that person, or somebody's going to abandon me, or it's all these little triggers or I'm going to be not accepted, or not good enough. Well, is that really true? Is that really going to happen? And if worst case scenario, it really happens, are those people the right people? Are all those scenarios the right scenarios for you to be in? But usually the answer is no. Like, your life isn't going to come to an end. We just put those ends and those limitations on us. So then let's shift back into breaking those patterns. And I usually use the senses as a guide. So what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? And so seeing, even just changing your visual, go out for a walk, go look at something different, go look at some calm scenery on your computer if that's all you have in front of you, or listening to music, listen to something calming, or if that's not your thing, rock out to some really great tune. Smell is a wonderful trigger for your brain. It can instantly transform you and take you back to a different place. Even just imagining a good smell can change how you feel. So what's one that really works for you? Lavender is a common aromatherapy. Some people love fruity smells. They can be both energizing and calming. Powders or natural scents can often trigger like just a really grounding feeling. So take a look at what that is for you. And of course, I always like to move my body, exercise, get out in some way. For me, I went for a run because that's what I do when I need to change my state. And while I'm running, I like to ask some questions. So for me this morning, I asked, what am I not too overwhelmed to do? What am I not too overwhelmed to do? Well, there was a call on my list. I'm like, okay, I'm not too overwhelmed to do that call. And instantly I felt better because I was like, I could do one thing. I know I can handle that. And I wasn't thinking about all the other things that I needed to do. I was just focused suddenly on that one. And so asking a question like that can be very powerful because it will zero in, and usually I'll find you're not going to choose the hardest task. You might not even choose the easiest, but you'll choose something that you believe you can manage. And that alone is very comforting and empowering. And if your answer is, I can't do anything, then do nothing. Give yourself permission to do nothing. Maybe that's your body and your nervous system asking to just stop. I need to do nothing for a moment until I recenter, and then I'll figure out my next first step. That's perfectly okay too. That's often another thing that we need, is to just stop. Because the continuation of the madness isn't going to get you anywhere. Guaranteed. You probably know that by now. And so taking all of the energy that you're going to expend and the time that you're going to spend in that overwhelm and just rechanneling it into something else is a much more effective way of doing it. So rechannel the energy, reframe your thoughts around it, and reset your physical state, and you're much, much more likely to overcome overwhelm. And as my husband says, you know what, it's just another day of stuff. And he's right. It's just another day of more stuff. And that too will pass. So with that smile, have a little gratitude that you have feelings. Feelings are really good, because that means you're alive and you're continuing, and you've got the opportunity for all sorts of wonderful things to happen. So appreciate that. Go off, be calm, be peaceful, be productive, and shine.